Thank you for joining me for High Heels and Hidden Truths. I'm Vanessa Murphy, investigative reporter at KLAS TV in Las Vegas. Today, we are going to revisit a murder case. This is the murder of a child, Aaron Jones. I want to warn you, this is heartbreaking. It is, of course, tragic. It could have been avoided. Aaron needed a voice. He was not given a voice, but we are going to give him one. Take a look.
Missing juvenile flyers were circulating the internet in hopes of locating 13-year-old Aaron Jones. Tuesday afternoon, the young boy's family called police after coming across decomposing human remains. The body covered in a blanket and rocks. They believe it's Aaron.
It's unbelievable. I don't see how people could do that kind of thing.
The male parent is in custody on a child abuse charge. So that raises even more concern.
And it's like all fingers are pointing at me when I didn't do nothing to him.
There is not a day that goes by and I don't think of my grandson.
Pia Coleman speaks in court as her grandchild's killer appears virtually from jail. Paul Jones has refused to show up in person after pleading guilty to murder and child abuse.
It's just not fair. Me and my family don't have Aaron, and nothing will bring him back to us.
So there you see Aaron's photo, just a child. His own father killed him. That is Paul Jones. Again, there were warning signs here. Now, this was back in 2017. His father's sentencing, Paul Jones' sentencing, happened not that long ago. We're recording this in late 2025. These criminal cases typically take a long time, right? There were competency proceedings, meaning a look at whether Paul Jones was fit for trial. Could he stand trial? Taking a look at his mental health. Eventually, he took a plea deal. There wasn't a trial. That happens with many murder cases, so that the trial does not have to take place. Typically, a plea deal might be more efficient for the criminal justice system. So we followed this case from when we were first notified something happened, when we were first notified that Aaron Jones was missing, and his father did not immediately report him missing. Then his body is found. Then eventually Paul Jones is arrested. Let's take a look.
It's eating me up. It was eating me up out there, and it's eating me up more in here.
It's an unusual coincidence, and now he's under suspicion again.
The male parent is in custody on a child abuse charge. So that raises even more concern.
I'm innocent on all.
But Paul Jones is adamant he did not kill his son.
No, he ran away. And that was the last time I saw him.
13-year-old Aaron Jones disappeared in December, but he wasn't reported missing until 2 weeks ago.
It's unbelievable. I don't see how people could do that kind of thing. I don't see how they could get away with it either.
Skeletal remains believed to be Aaron's discovered here, wrapped in a blanket.
If it is that person, then he's been out here for more than a few months.
Why did he vanish? How did he die? And who is to blame?
Now I'm finding out that this happened, and it's like all fingers are pointing at me when I didn't do nothing to him.
Investigators and child advocates wonder why it took so long for Aaron's family to call police. Jones says he was on the run after a probation violation and feared he would be sent back to jail.
Do you know anyone that could have harmed him, Paul?
Only thing I know is 1 minute he's there, and then the next minute he's ran off. That's the only thing I know. And I couldn't call the police, but I did go look for him and everything else also.
Court records reveal what happened 2 years ago when Jones was arrested on multiple child abuse charges. His teenage stepdaughter told school investigators she was struck with a cable. But Jones denies all of it.
Do you believe that the body is Aaron's?
I don't know.
And you're saying that you do not know what happened to Aaron?
No, I don't.
And that was Shakayla Alvarenga reporting. You could see that she interviewed Paul Jones in jail. Oftentimes, especially for cases like these, we do put in interview requests with the Clark County Detention Center. We put those requests in through Metro Police. They go to the inmate. They say, do you want to do an interview? And do you agree for this to be recorded? They might say, will you do it with Vanessa from Channel 8? They say yes or no. Oftentimes we show up, they might see the camera and quickly change their minds. But you can see here, Paul Jones agreed to speak with Shakayla. I am not a psychologist, but I have been doing this for a long time, and you can start to notice signs, right? Well, for one, his son is missing. Two, this body may be his son's. We know it was. But at the time, this body may be his son's. Does he look distraught to you? Is he crying? No, because he's lying. And then you take a look when she's asking him a question. He's fidgeting. He's looking all around. Why? Because he's lying. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back. I'm Vanessa Murphy. We are taking a look at the murder of Aaron Jones by his father, Paul Jones. Now, when a child is murdered, we often dig into, were there warning signs? What contact did this family possibly have previously with, let's say, Child Protective Services? Did people report abuse and neglect? Could this have been prevented? So I'm going to take you to a report. This is when we dug into records for near deaths for children and deaths for children. So we took a look at a report by the Legislative Counsel Bureau that sort of oversees different agencies. Sometimes we'll do an audit to say what went wrong or what went right, what can we do better. In this report, there were 27 children who died in 2017 and 2018, 24 others who nearly died. That's what the Legislative Counsel Bureau took a look at. Take a look.
You couldn't possibly come to that finding realistically.
This memo states, quote, based on our review of the case files provided to us through December 31st, 2018, we found no evidence that the fatalities and near fatalities were caused by the agencies not complying with state and federal laws, end quote. But 13-year-old Aaron Jones died during the time period the LCB claims it reviewed. He was placed with his father, who was already on probation for felony child abuse. Months later, the child was dead. Attorney Marjorie Hoff is representing the child's mother in a lawsuit filed against Clark County's Child Protective Services, which alleges the county and CPS workers could have prevented Aaron's death.
It's hard to believe my son is dead. It's not something that I would ever understand.
Our interview with Dejanay Thomas aired on February 25th. 2 days later, this memo became official.
I was not aware of this Legislative Counsel Bureau audit letter until you had brought it to my attention.
And now that you've read it, what do you think?
Now that I've read it, I think it's extremely surprising and inaccurate.
Here's what we know about the Aaron Jones case. In June of 2016, the 13-year-old boy was removed from his mother and placed with his father, and a court record states respondent was awarded custody by CPS. Thomas says Aaron and his sister were removed from her care by CPS because she could no longer take medication for mental health needs due to a pregnancy. The father, Paul Jones, was on probation for felony child abuse for hitting his stepdaughter with a cable the year before. He also lived in a one-bedroom apartment with his wife and 11 other children, according to records. By December 2016, Aaron was missing, but no one told police. And according to detectives, Jones kept cashing Aaron's Social Security checks. In April of 2017, the boy's bones were discovered, and soon after, Paul Jones was accused of murder.
There's some systematic failure that a case like my client's could fall through a crack and say that that was not a preventable death.
Hoff believes CPS didn't do a background check on Paul Jones before Aaron was placed with him, and says no CPS workers checked on Aaron after he was placed with him. She, along with I-Team sources, question whether the LCB reviewed complete case files, including Aaron's. So the I-Team asked the LCB, and in an email, a legislative auditor wrote, "Staff review all documentation relevant to the specific circumstances of the case."
3 pages is not enough to determine what happened to these children.
An arrest report describes what police say happened to Aaron. Jones would punish Aaron by making him stand against a wall with his arms up, while other children were encouraged to hit him with anything they chose. Aaron wasn't allowed to protect himself. Hoff says CPS could have protected him, but there's no mention of that in this review. And if Aaron's case wasn't included here, could there be others? Okay, so again, the Legislative Counsel Bureau at that time took a look at these deaths of children, near deaths of children, and those are the ones that had histories with Child Protective Services, right? So their families had history. So oftentimes there are records where, and it's limited when we're talking about public records, but it might mention a death or a near death and say the family had previous contact. It'll give a date, maybe an allegation of abuse or neglect, and it'll say substantiated or unsubstantiated. And oftentimes we see unsubstantiated and information only. But the conclusion of that report appeared to be that there were no system failures. You decide. Should Child Protective Services have checked on Aaron after he was placed with his father? Should they have done some sort of check to find out he had a criminal history? These are all questions that, Attorney Marjorie Huff was raising and we took a look at. Moving forward here, Paul Jones' criminal case goes through the court system. As I mentioned earlier, his competency, questions about his competency are raised. Let's take a look.
He ran away. And that was the last time I saw him.
Investigators say Paul Jones concocted a story about his son Aaron's death. This is an interview from jail with 8 News Now in 2017 after the 13-year-old's remains were found.
All fingers are pointing at me when I didn't do nothing to him.
A jury trial was set to begin this week, but instead, the attorney for Jones filed this emergency motion for an independent determination of his competency to stand trial, referring to mental disabilities along with psychological, emotional, and physical trauma throughout his life. According to this 50-page document, a psychologist who evaluated Jones determined he has a severely low IQ and the educational ability of an 8 or 9-year-old. He also points to challenges he faced growing up as a student with special needs and due to family neglect, and to bullying he faced. According to an arrest report, Jones neglected and bullied his son, making him stand against a wall with his arms up while his siblings were encouraged to hit him with anything they chose. Jones is now charged with murder, child abuse, and theft. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty.
This matter is going to be referred to competency.
On Monday, Clark County District Court Judge Tiara Jones postponed the trial while Jones will be further evaluated.
It's hard to believe my son is dead.
Dejanay Thomas is Aaron's biological mother. She sat down with the I-Team in 2019.
It's not something that I would ever understand.
And court documents indicate that there was some sort of settlement for Dejanay Thomas in that civil case. We don't have the exact details, but again, court records indicate there was a settlement. You could also see people wearing masks in that video. So the case began in 2017 and then proceeded through the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a break. Welcome back to High Heels and Hidden Truths. I'm Vanessa Murphy, investigative reporter at KLAS TV in Las Vegas. Today, we are revisiting the murder case of Aaron Jones. His father, Paul Jones, killed him. The case began in 2017. It took years for there to be a resolution. Today, Paul Jones is in prison. He originally faced the death penalty. That will not happen right now. But let's revisit what we've talked about. We talked about how Aaron Jones, a little boy, was missing, but not reported missing immediately. Not immediately reported missing. First red flag. Then you have the child with his father who has a criminal history in this one-bedroom apartment with a bunch of siblings. You have a lot of warning signs here. This could have been prevented. We looked at those warning signs. We pulled the audit from the Legislative Counsel Bureau. We talked with the child's mother. We talked with her attorney. We really tried to figure out what happened and how can a tragedy like this be prevented moving forward. So that brings us now to the sentencing. This was emotional. When a defendant is sentenced, there is a victim impact statement, oftentimes by multiple individuals. So in this case, it would be family members, loved ones of the victim who was murdered. Again, it was emotional. Take a look.
There is not a day that goes by that I don't think of my grandson. It's just not fair. Me and my family don't have Aaron, and nothing will bring him back to us. Your Honor, so much damage has been done. There's not enough therapy, counseling, and medication in the world to fix this.
Vanessa Murphy.
It's time for Aaron to get justice.
So on a personal note, it is difficult to sit through something like this, right? You are hearing the emotions of not only someone who lost a loved one, but also the loved one is a child. So it's as tragic as you can get, right? So a victim impact statement, oftentimes a loved one of a victim might say, Judge, I believe you should sentence the defendant to X because of this. Here's what the person meant to our family. Here's who this person was. It's just incredibly emotional. But again, that is when Paul Jones was sentenced after lying for years. Take a look at a full report. There were warning signs leading up to the death of Aaron Jones. And now his sister, who witnessed the murder, says the child welfare system here failed.
Now that Aaron is gone, I don't want to live anymore. But I have to live for Aaron.
Ariana Jones says she witnessed her father murdering her 13-year-old brother Aaron. Paul Jones appears virtually in court from jail Thursday as he receives a sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole after 24 years.
Paul made me clean up Aaron's blood, and it hurt me so much.
Paul Jones hid Aaron's body and lied about his son's whereabouts for months in 2017, while he also kept cashing Aaron's Social Security checks.
Dad never let us know that he was missing. You know, we would call and check on him, but there's nothing that we can do. We couldn't do anything.
Andrea Whitlock says she's Aaron's godmother and cousin on his maternal side. Aaron and his sister had been removed from his mother's care and placed with his father while Paul Jones was already on probation for child abuse.
He shouldn't have never even had him to begin with. If Paul didn't want him, he should have gave him back. He should have just gave him back because he was very much loved, very much wanted. We loved this baby. You know, he was a bright and shining star in our family.
At least 12 people, including as many as 10 children, were living in a one-bedroom apartment when Jones would repeatedly neglect, bully, and abuse Aaron and others.
He was treated horrible. Horrible. Every single one of those kids, horrible.
Aaron's mother, Dejanay Thomas, previously filed a lawsuit against Clark County Child Protective Services and several employees, alleging CPS didn't do a background check on Paul Jones and never visited the two children after they were placed with him.
They failed Aaron in the most horrific way.
Do you think that someone maybe could have intervened before, like Child Protective Services or court, to save Aaron and help you and your siblings?
I feel like it could have been Child Haven. They could have checked on us, but they didn't. They failed at their job, so yeah.
Now, despite the challenges she's faced and the abuse she suffered at the hands of Paul Jones, Aaron's sister says she's graduating from high school. Reporting in downtown Las Vegas, Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now. There you have it. You heard essentially she felt like someone could have intervened. Some agency could have intervened. So again, we are revisiting this case, the murder of a child, Aaron Jones, at the hands of his father, Paul Jones. Paul Jones is not getting out of prison anytime soon. I think sometimes when people hear the possibility of parole for such a heinous crime, you think, what? But there has to be something on the table here for a plea deal for both sides. So originally he may have faced the death penalty. Well, if he pleads guilty, the death penalty will be taken off the table. If he believes he's going to prison for the rest of his life and there's zero chance of getting out with a plea deal, why would he agree to a plea deal, right? So again, the plea deal, both sides have to sort of make adjustments, a compromise, and meet in the middle here. So again, my hope is we give little Aaron Jones a voice here. This was a tragedy. It could have been prevented. And if there's a lesson for any of us, look, if you suspect child abuse or neglect, report it. It doesn't mean you have to get involved, so much so that your name will be part of something. Just report it. Report it. I would hate to not report a child that I suspect. I would hate to report suspected child abuse or neglect and then learn about a tragedy like this, right? People don't want to snitch. They want to mind their own business. But in this case, could more reporting have helped? We don't know. But I just think this is a good lesson. If you suspect that a child is being abused, report it, even if you want to do it anonymously. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next week.